Hey guys, this is Pack and Rally episode 3. Today I'm in front of the Sydney Opera House. Most of you are probably used to looking at it from the water or from above, so you see the full sails. It's not often that you see it from the front. First thing you'll notice is that I'm on the stairs, because the actual Opera House is basically underground. It's about 3 stories, I would say. So the sails are pretty high up. I chose this location because today's topic is inspiration and creativity. So when you think of the Sydney Opera House, you probably think of how it's iconic, how it's different, how it's strange, a little bit weird. It really embodies Sydney. But take a step back and realize that it's an opera house. There's been opera houses for centuries. There are opera houses all over the world, and this one is unique. Where did the idea for the Sydney Opera House come from? How do you even conceive of the sail logic? Granted, it's a little on the nose. We are on the water. But fun fact, if you put all of the sails together, they actually become a sphere, which is a little bit crazy. So the question for today is, where do ideas come from? Where does inspiration come from? And for me, I think it comes as a result of exposure to new ideas, to new concepts, to things that you wouldn't see in your normal day-to-day life. Now, I've been thinking about this episode for a while, and I kind of wanted to start with the Einstein quote, but I decided to kind of jam it in right here, which I'm sure you've heard. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So for me, the definition of insanity was staying in New Jersey for almost all of my life, doing the same exact thing, worrying about the same exact thing, hanging out with pretty much the same people. This is what I refer to as my bubble. I talked about it in previous episodes, and if you kind of grew up in America, I guess you kind of understand what that bubble is. But my sphere of influence, my sphere of culture, everything that I knew revolved around growing up in New Jersey and never really leaving where I grew up. Granted, I had traveled outside a little bit, but how much different is Pennsylvania from New York, from New Jersey? At the end of the day, pretty similar. So this is for people who aren't yet convinced that they should travel, and people that think that you can travel vicariously through somebody else. The thing is, until you're exposed to a different culture or a different way of life or different food, do you really even know that that is available to you? Do you know that that's an option? Do you know what it tastes like, what it feels like? Does it make you feel anything? Perfect example is the David. I was actually talking about this yesterday with a friend of mine who's Italian. The first time that I saw the David, now this is a huge statue of a naked man, basically, and it was created by Michelangelo. I've seen it in photos. If you see it in photos, it's impressive, but not really. It's like, but I saw it in person, and the details of this guy, the veins in his legs and the fingernails and the curls of the hair, the details were so insane. The photo would never, ever allow me to really grasp what the David is all about. And the opposite is true, for me it was true, of the Mona Lisa or the Sistine Chapel. I had seen photos of it and I thought, wow, this great masterpiece, this grand thing. And then it turned out to me, it turned out to be like, meh. The Mona Lisa behind glass is just the Mona Lisa behind glass. I had seen it a million times. It didn't really change a painting as a painting, right? And the same thing for the Sistine Chapel. I thought it would be this great, grandiose thing, and then when I saw it, it was just this little square, and it just wasn't what I expected it to be. So the point is that you can sit at home, or you can go on the internet, or you can go out, and you can think that you know what the world is, but it's so much different. You have to go out there. You have to see it for yourself. And I say you have to, and I really am careful about when I say you have to do something, or you know, need to do something. I usually say you should, or it'd be great if. But think about your life right now. Think about all of the things that you believe to be true. And now imagine if you lived on the opposite side of the world, or you lived in a different culture, a different society, if you were of a different religion, if you didn't believe in religion, if you did believe in religion, how much your life would change, how much you would change as a person. And I think that as an American, we don't get out there enough. There's 50 states, and each one of them is unique. And you know how many times I've been to states outside of the East Coast? Almost never. With the exception of California, I really don't know anything in the Midwest or the West, with the exception of California in the West. And yet, we're all American, and yet we all live together in this country, and we abide by these laws and these rules. And when do we really think, man, I should go out to Tennessee, I should go out to Michigan, I should go out to Nebraska and see what it's really like? And for most of us, I think we're like, nah, we know what Midwesterners are like. We know what those people are like. You know, we know what Republicans should be, what a Democrat should be, you know, what those crazy libertarians are all about. But do we really know? Do you really, really, truly believe that you know? And the thing is, as a citizen of the United States, as a citizen of the world, I think you owe it to yourself to really understand the world that we live in, the people that live in it. And there's no way that you can do that from your home unless you're Skyping with people all over the world, because even chatting through, you know, MSN Messenger back in the day, you can't see the look on somebody's face. You can't see the gestures. Like when an Italian speaks, I love saying this, when an Italian speak, they speak with their hands, you know? They're gesticulating, and they've got this whole sign language that's totally understood, but you have to see it to understand it, you know? And I was actually at a barbecue this weekend, and a friend of mine who's French said, you know, this, in France, it means thinking, but in Western civilization, that means you're crazy, like, right? So it's those tiny little things that you don't think about, and that's a stupid little example, but until you see the world for yourself, until you experience for yourself, you don't really know a whole lot, right? I mean, think about when you graduate college. You think you know everything about your subject, your given career, and then you get into the workplace and you're like, oh my God, this is different. They didn't teach me that. I learned this, but they're saying this. There's so many things that you still have to learn. It's all that hands-on experience. It's that part of living, you know. There's wisdom, and then there's experience, and it's something you have to live through. So the point of this video, to really sum it up, is if you don't think that you should travel, ask yourself, where are you going to get new ideas from? How are you going to form different opinions? How are you going to grow and evolve if you don't leave your circle? And I think I really need to stress that I'm not saying go to Spain or to Portugal or somewhere in Russia or Poland. You don't have to leave your country. You don't have to leave your comfort zone. You just have to go out into the world and go somewhere where you wouldn't normally go. If you live in Jersey, go out to Michigan. If you live in Michigan, go out to North Carolina. If you live in North Carolina, get the heck out. If you have a family, take the kids. If you're single, go. Don't worry about being alone and traveling. If you're in a relationship, honestly, the best thing that I've seen is people traveling together. It puts you through all sorts of experiences. It gives you so many memories, so many challenges, so much building of that relationship. There's no excuse not to travel. And it doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be expensive. The point is, see the world for yourself. Don't accept what you have and say, that's it, that's all I have, you know? When I graduated college, I said, well, I am this smart, I've educated myself this much, and you know, this is how much I'm gonna make, and this is what I'm gonna do, and these are, you know, very hard lines. And mostly it was by the people around me, because my friends weren't traveling across the world, they were all scrambling to find jobs. It was my upbringing. I mean, we grew up, I'd say, poor. You know, we had what we needed, but we really didn't have everything. You know, we didn't have access to everything. So much of me was formed and rigid, and people who know me from back then will say, yeah, that was one stubborn dude. And so much of me has changed and grown and learned because I've traveled, and I think the world would be such a better place. We would understand each other better if you traveled, if you went out of your way to learn and grow and to challenge what you know. You know, this opera house was designed and built by an immigrant, not someone who lived in Australia, not someone who even lived in this part of the world. I believe it was a Dutch architect. And it's such a great story about how this was an international competition, ideas coming from all over the world, and this guy who wasn't Australian, who wasn't very well known, designed this great structure, and then now it lives. It's a legacy. So if I haven't convinced you yet, I'm sorry. I feel like I've failed. But if I have convinced you to travel, then continue on watching these episodes. This is the last one which I try and convince people to travel, or try and say why you should travel. Next episode is going to be Travel 101. What's the first step in getting ready to travel? So please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this on social, tell your friends, give me some good feedback, positive or negative, as long as it's constructive. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheers!